Success is 2 syllables. And there are a lot of interpretations to this word. Where did the word come from? It's actually a 16th century word. And it comes from the Latin sucidere. Sucidere means to succeed or to come after. So the king dies and someone succeeds him, to come after. Over the years, it started to mean an advance, a good result, moving forward, a happy outcome. And today it describes more than a project or an experiment. It's a state of being. It's the ultimate goal for many of us. If I were to ask you, who does not want to succeed in this room? Apart from Kui, maybe. Not many of you will. Kui, they're not laughing very much, eh? We're going to have to do something about this. And the reason for that is really that, we've been socialized to believe that success is everything. And this definition is actually really left to the individual to decide. It's not up to you to decide. It's the society around you that decides that. Ask any college student to describe a successful person, and I can bet you anything that the answer you'll get is the definition of success will be pegged on how much money that individual has made rather than the impact or the contentment that he or she has found in life. The scenario is no different when it's applied to the corporate space. In today's layman's definition, a successful company is one with a sound balance sheet, not one that's made a difference in the community it operates in, but one that brings back healthy returns to the shareholders. And if you just think about it for a moment, when you think of successful companies, that's what you think about. The desire to be successful consumes many of us, and there are numerous people out there who are willing to share tips on how to be successful. If you Google it now, Google how to be successful, and you'll come up with 708 million search results. And that's a lot of free tips, how to be successful. But do you ever stop and think about the journey to success? How do you define success? Is it your bank balance? Is it my bank balance? Everybody knows what my bank balance is. Some people don't even believe it. It's an interesting thing. I don't know how much money. Some people say, is that all? And some people say, that's a lot. And I don't know how you can define success by the money that you have or that you don't have. Let's take a look at Safaricom. A quick look today will tell you that we have been positioned pretty much as the poster child for corporate success, not just in Kenya, actually, but globally. And that's largely because of M-Pesa. The company is today valued at about $6.25 billion. I checked before I came down. We have about 20, it's not just about money, really. We have, she's smiling. She's thinking, oh, he's counting the money. We've got 25 million customers. We've got about 22 million M-Pesa users. And we're, for the past, ever since I've been here and when Michael was here, we've been the top paying taxpayer by actually quite a margin. No one comes close to us. We are a giant corporation, or at least by Kenyan standards. And to be honest, it's not difficult to see why this near omnipresence that you see with Safaricom has fanned the debate on whether or not we're dominant. Our revenues keep growing, and I hope we'll continue growing, as long as I'm the CEO. The company, that's one sure way of getting your ass fired. The company is growing, and we still actually have pretty big plans to sustain this momentum. We're not done. And even when I'm gone, we're still not going to be done. We've enjoyed so much success that it seems that we can do nothing wrong, right? Wrong. In September last year, I shared a post on LinkedIn. I don't know if you guys are on LinkedIn or not. And I wrote about our success story and the role that failure has played and continues to play in pushing us to innovate, pushing us to learn from our mistakes, and subsequently launching more successful products and services. The article that was published just as we were about to celebrate our 15th birthday anniversary looked at one of the failures, which was the Dactari 1525. Many of you probably don't even remember it. But actually, Dactari 1525 got us listed as, I think, the fifth, I can't remember the number now, but the fifth, was it the fifth? The fifth most innovative company in the world. Can you imagine? The fifth most innovative company in the world. You're Safaricom. It was a failure. And actually, we got the Innovation Award, and it was Fast Company, I think, that did it. I can't remember who it was now, but we got the award after the thing had failed. It was slightly embarrassing, and I couldn't talk too much about it at the time because I knew it had failed. But because of that failure, we actually sat back and we looked at it and we worked at it and we found some friends and we kept iterating, and then we launched Semadoc, which is actually much more sustainable and much more successful than Dactari 1525 was. And that's not been the only failure. Actually, we fail a number of times, whether it's in the creation of products which cost us more to develop and to provide than it makes in earnings, or products which we launch and customers hated it. We've fallen from our perch many, many times, and more times than you can even imagine. The recent misses that we've had is the smart loan. I don't know how many of you remember the smart loan. You take a loan out to buy a smartphone. Didn't work. We did that in collaboration with the Commercial Bank of Africa. And, we've got a pretty good relationship with those guys. We launched Linda Jemmy. I don't know how many of you remember Linda Jemmy. Linda Jemmy, we went to, I think it was Buruburu, and we launched it in quite a spectacular launch. We were very good at launching stuff. Yeah, I remember going to Buruburu and talking to my fellow CEOs, my partners, who had never been to Buruburu before, which was a surprise to me because these guys are all rich CEOs. And they'd never been there, and they wanted to know how much security they need to take. Sure, whatever. You'll notice that these are all launched within the space of 1 year, and there's a lot more. None of them worked out as we had planned for them to work out. But did they cripple the company? Obviously not. It still is the biggest company, it still is the most successful company in East Africa. A few egos were bruised, and usually they're mine, because these guys put me up for the launch. I don't do launches anymore. And the egos are bruised, and one or two people might have missed their targets, but we kept moving. And we did something which we're becoming pretty good at. We're not quite there yet. We found a way to rejuvenate the offering. It's taken sweat and tears, and actually sometimes blood. And certainly, you think I'm joking about the blood, certainly there are moments of intense frustration, tempered just occasionally by moments of brilliance. Just occasionally, we've had a brilliant innovation. And that is what's gotten us to where we are today. And that's the part that nobody talks about. My team would not talk about. Why? It's because we are preset, you are preset to celebrate success and to sweep failure under the carpet. Nobody more so than Safaricom employees. I mean, how many Safaricom people do we have in the room, apart from you? I can see some of them. Okay. So nobody is more programmed to celebrate success and hide failure. The reason why I never look under these carpets is because they hide them under the carpets. Don't ever look under that carpet. We get so embarrassed by failure that we quickly apply the cosmetic PR to anything which doesn't work out the way we'd planned, rather than be honest with ourselves. But there's something that I've learned over the years, and that is that those who dare to defy the fear of failure, they stand the greatest chance of opening the doors to success. I'll repeat that. Those who defy the fear of failure stand the greatest chance of opening the doors to success. But success doesn't come overnight. You speak to any successful person. You speak to any young person, they'll tell you they want to have a Range Rover and they want to have it in the next 2 years. You speak to any successful person who is my age at 58, they tell you that you have to work at it. And if you speak to Thomas Edison, it'll be a miracle because he died a little while ago. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. If he was here today, he would tell you that he had to try 1,000 times and fail. And then in the 1,001 time, I'm sure it wasn't exactly 1,001, he succeeded. And hence, we have the light bulb. If he was here today, I'd ask him to tell the story of the number of nights that he worked under the glow of a candlelight, trying to come up with an innovative solution to the unwanted early bedtimes. And for some people who have many children, early bedtimes is an advantage, I guess. Not many people got that joke. Now many people are pretending they got that joke. The problems of the messy candle wax, and the ever-present threat, which we still have today, of your house burning down because of the candle. It's said that he made 100 attempts to create the light bulb. Then finally he hit the jackpot, and look at what we've got today. If ever there was an example of failing up, it's Edison's story. Unfortunately, we're surrounded by so many edited stories of success that rarely do we get a glimpse into the struggles that precede this achievement. We're very quick to admire and oftentimes covet the success of the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, and Aliko Dangote. I'm fortunate that actually I know all these guys. And I've known some of them for a long time, and I've known more of them recently. But just look at Gates' story. I mean, actually, Richard is the best. Because Richard and I sit on this thing called the B team. Richard will tell you about failure. He loves it. And as I was growing up, Richard Branson was the guy who epitomized failure. You know, whether he wanted to cross the Atlantic in a balloon, which crashed, whether he wanted to run Virgin Rail, which was a complete failure, whether he wanted Virgin Coke was an interesting thing. Huge failure. And until now, Richard still laughs about it. Would you call him a failure? I don't think so. Aliko is the same. Aliko makes mistakes every day. But he wouldn't call him a failure. They all have that thing in common. They tried, they failed, they changed the things up. They tried again, quite possibly, they failed again. And Richard and his trains, he keeps bloody failing with those trains, but he keeps trying. Nobody wants to experience the heartbreak of failure. It doesn't feel good. We all want to sail in the winds of success without having to be prepared to deal with the force of the wind. I can bet that no highly impactful innovation, whether it's in technology, it's in entertainment, or it's in health, none of them has ever come about the first time round. History is filled with the stories of great failures that became monumental successes. Take a look at the Beatles. Look at Walt Disney, J.K. Rowling, Steve Jobs. You know, this is the space that you guys are operating in. Steve knew a thing or two about failure and rising again. John Pemberton, who's the creator of Coca-Cola. So why do we abhor failure when there's adequate proof that it doesn't mean the end of the world? Why are we hardwired to see only the negatives in failure, when in truth, failing could be the best thing that ever happened to you? All the names that I've mentioned so far have something in common. In the process of innovation, they encountered failure. Some much more so than others. Richard Branson. But they overcame these failures to become successful, to be financially or purely based on, be it financially or purely based on the impact of the innovation and the widespread use of that innovation. Their achievement, a proof that innovation rarely exists without failure. For how can you create something new without the failures that inspires perfection? It takes a certain kind of person to keep failing, but keep trying. an ambitious person, a stubborn person, a mad inventor, so to speak. And actually, Safaricom is all of those things. People often ask me, what's the secret of our success? And we're described as an innovator. Early this afternoon, I had a meeting with someone from Silicon Valley who came with what I think is like the best invention I've seen for a long time. And at first, I agreed to see it because a friend says, this guy has this invention. And I said, hey, whatever. And he came, and I tried this thing out, and I looked at it, and I called my colleagues up to see it. And here was an example of a guy who came to see, I wanted to see Safaricom because in Silicon Valley, you guys are a hero. We are perceived to be an innovative company. Well, there is no secret. There's no one secret. But there's an attitude. And it's the attitude to failure that we have and that we're continuing to learn to deal with. We've learned that the secret to success and that failure is not the end of innovation. We've learned to see the value in constructive failure, and we've discovered what it means to fail up. We've learned that the only way that we can reap the benefits of failure is by turning failure into a lesson for success. So let me finish off by giving you my 3 tips. These are the same 3 tips that I gave in the LinkedIn article, so if you read it, then you can go now. They're not laughing heartily, perhaps because the jokes aren't that good. The first one is to fail fast. Fail fast. Juliana, thank you so much for laughing on my behalf. Don't keep doing something if your instinct or the market tells you otherwise, no matter how successful it might appear to be, or how much you have sunk into the idea. This happens a lot. People put time into it, and they think, I've put so much time into it and so much money into it that I can't let it go now. Spot the failure early, and don't do the same thing and expect a different result. That is absolutely the definition of insanity. I can give, in my head, I've got so many examples of how we have failed so slowly. I mean, some of them you haven't even seen. And it's failed even before we've come to market with it. You know, with the big box. I didn't mention the big box. The big box. You know how long we've been working on that bloody thing? And then we took like years. Literally years. It was about 2 years. I think you weren't even working for us in those days. And we still failed when we launched it. Why was I angry about it? I was angry because we should have failed like 2 years ago. Fixed it, and actually we've fixed it now. And since we've relaunched it, we've had, I think, about 4 or 5 been returned since we've launched it back in November. So fail as fast as you can. Don't try and get it to perfection because you will never get it to perfection. The second thing is, what happens when an airplane crashes? What's the first thing the airline does? Does anybody know? You find the black box. They will ground the airline until they find the black box because they need to know what went wrong. My tip